Live across the globe, Angeli Rao, Rob McKnight and David Robinson.
And Rob and Robbo. News, entertainment too. It's the Ange, Rob and Robbo. And Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ange, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome indeed to a very different Ange, Rob and Robbo Show, because I'm joined by the one and only Susie Ellerman and Jason Roses. Hello.
Hello. Let me see if I can get it right. Susie, Rob and Jason Show.
Yeah, Susie, Rob and Jason. Hey, it's got a good ring to it. Out with these cups and in with the new. Guys, I'm so pleased you're here. Just for those playing at home, Ange has been called away to the Real Housewives of Melbourne, and it's going to be like this over the next couple of months while she's shooting, from week to week and sometimes day to day. We don't know when she's going to be here, so it's going to be cray-cray. So thankfully, Susie is on standby and has joined us tonight, and Jason is filling in for Robbo, who's been doing that big OB for the radio at the ABC Sunshine Coast. So thank you, guys. We really do appreciate it.
Pleasure. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the applause.
Yeah. Come on, Abby, you're in the studio as well. Hey!
That's more like it.
Got to rev them up. Hey, look, there is a big... You guys will be pleased that you've stuck around for this edition of the Ange, Rob and Robbo Show, because Hamish Blake is in the house. He will be joining us a little later on to talk Lego Masters and plenty of other things. And we've got a few other surprises along the way. In fact, Jason, I've allowed enough time in the entertainment segment for you to spill the tea on Married at First Sight. You were the star of Married at First Sight with your sippy cup. You know.
Audio.
Huh? Jason, I'm so sorry. I pressed the wrong switch for you. You've been mute all this time.
How dare you? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we've got you.
Okay, great. Yes, I was the star of Married at First Sight. I mean, I practically created the show. So, I'm going to spill all the tea, all the goss, everything.
Can't wait. In the meantime, though, let's get into some hot button issues, because the owner of a dog who has bitten 3 people, and I apologise, I've just lost my auto cue, but the owner of a dog who has bitten 3 people says the animal is not dangerous and has chosen to challenge the $1,300 fine imposed by the council. According to the Daily Mail, the pet, owned by Wendy Ho, left her one-time friend Neil Alexander hospitalised for a week after the attack. Mr. Alexander says he is still in pain a year after he was mutilated and suffers from PTSD. It's since been revealed the dog has attacked 2 other people, with each attack appearing to be progressively worse. Waverley Council on Sydney's eastern suburbs were apparently slow to respond to complaints and eventually declared the dog dangerous and issued a fine. Mr. Alexander has permanent nerve damage and has written a letter of complaint over council's handling of the matter. Now, Susie, I have to say, shouldn't this dog be put down?
Oh, 100%. In fact, the police said to him when he had the attack that the dog should be put down.
That's
so I
right.
don't know why to council. He should be just going straight to the police with all of his injuries, and he's still going through it. I mean, this is absolutely horrendous. So not only should the dog be put down, but we should not be able to have this breed in this country. I mean, this animal is bred to hunt elk, wild boar, and brown bears, and now we're trying to bring it up in the burbs. I mean, how absolutely ridiculous. It's not fair for the dog. Look at the poor thing. It has to have a muzzle on the entire time. That, to me, is cruelty. And this woman, honestly, she deserves more than a fine.
Well, look, and the dog is an Akita dog. Akita, and as you said, does all those things, and it seems that this dog was bred for personal protection. And isn't this the problem, Jason? Because it's not always the dogs, It's the dog owners. It comes down to how they're brought up, and you can tell. If this was my dog that had attacked 3 people, no one would have to tell me to put the dog down. I would be doing that. This selfish human being, apparently is a human being, but not in my books, is happy for this dog to attack people, and then the council gets too scared because she's getting lawyers involved and having everything go through a solicitor, and they just say, too hard, too hard. It's piss week on the council's front too.
It is. I mean, and I guess the question is, what will it take for this dog to be put down? Is it going to need to attack a child, or, you know, what's worse, kill someone? And you guys are right. These dogs, this breed is trained to hunt, trained to kill large-sized animals. So the fact that it was allowed to be domesticated in Australia, to me, is absolutely absurd. I mean, to cause such grievous damage, nerve damage to 3 people, I mean, it's outrageous that it's still being allowed to walk the streets. And as you said, Rob, it was trained for protection. So it all comes down to the owners, how they're raised, how they're bred, I should say. So the owner has imported this from overseas. They're originally from Japan, this type of dog, and obviously she's wanting it to be used as personal protection. Who on earth needs a dog like this walking the streets as personal protection? It's also beyond me, but as far as I'm concerned, 3 attacks is far enough, and it should absolutely be put down.
And what, to make matters worse too, that I find, is that she's so small that she can't control the dog. I mean, this poor friend of hers said that when the dog attacked, and apparently she'd put, your former friend, exactly, she'd put the dog in the car, the window was down enough for it to jump out, she'd taken the muzzle off, and he waved goodbye, and the dog jumped out of the car and attacked him. And she said that she wasn't strong enough to be able to even pull the dog off. So, I mean, surely, you're right, it's the owners. It's just shocking.
And what my concern is, I mean, it's going to very soon. What if it's a small child? What if it's a teenager walking by that doesn't have the strength of an adult to push this animal off? I mean, people have already been seriously hurt, but someone soon enough could be killed by this animal. And then will the council say, let's now put the dog down? I mean, it's not good enough. The council should be intervening now. And, you know, I mean, I've always seen when vicious dogs have attacked other people, they've been put down instantly. So I don't.
You're out. The one thing I disagree with you guys on, though.
Protecting this dog?
The one thing I disagree with you is about the breed of dog. I think people are entitled to have these breeds of dogs, but it comes down to the way that they are controlled, because I see you both shaking your head at me. But my point being,
for the dog, Rob. I mean, you've got this beautiful hound.
But it has been trained to protect. Now, when you take a dog like that and train it to protect, of course it's going to attack. My point is, if you domesticate a dog and treat it to be respectful and train it, then there shouldn't be a problem. But this dog has been trained to attack. This isn't about breeding. This is about the upraise, the right. What's the word I'm trying to find? It's about the way the dog has been brought up.
Upbringing.
So would you domesticate a tiger or a lion? Do you think it's okay if people were to house tigers or lions?
There's a bit of a difference.
No, well, why? No, this dog is trained
got a point.
And to hunt large animals.
Tigers are about 4 times the size.
No.
The tiger could eat this dog that attacked. No. You got me there, Jason.
But really, if you use the Staffy pit bull example, I think there's another indication that their dog. It's like there were 2 Jack Russells living in my building, and every time I went down the back stairs, I heard these poor things bark at every single noise that was made. These 2 little Jack Russells were not bred to be cooped up into a little apartment in inner city. They are designed to run and to hunt and what have you. So we are being selfish to take a dog like this that should have sufficient areas to be able to run and live a proper life, and squash it into a house or an apartment, and we go off to work and we come back, big deal, we take it for a walk on the lead. And we think that's fine. I just think that is so cruel to that animal, which is not bred, and they're not bred to be attack dogs or to be guard dogs or protection dogs. These dogs should be allowed to be dogs. It's just tragic.
I think that's a fair point. All right, let's move on, because a Sydney cafe has issued a grovelling apology after being called out for cultural appropriation by MasterChef judge Melissa Leong. The reality TV star took aim at Orchard Street over a video advertisement which she says feels like thousands of years of culture and technique turned into a prop. In the ad, a white model is seen using a $45 gua shi skin massage tool used in traditional Chinese medicine to stimulate blood flow, promoting cell repair, regeneration, recovery and healing. Since being targeted by Leong, the cafe issued an apology saying, in part, "We apologise for any disrespect showing the use of this merely as a beauty tool may have shown to the Chinese and Asian community." Susie, do you think the cafe should have apologised?
Look, I think it's at the moment, because there's so much political correctness, that the cafe has no other choice but to apologise. But my question...
You know what? Okay, I'm going to need some help here, and I'm putting my hand up, middle-aged white guy, all right? So this is where I'm coming from. But what I want to know is, isn't everything in this world cultural appropriation? You know, like, we wear clothes. A culture came up with that concept. We've stolen that. A culture, Chinese culture came up with gunpowder. We've appropriated that. Cultures do appropriate from each other. Isn't that just life? This idea that you can't make rap music because that's part of a certain culture. I just find this whole thing bizarre. I can't fathom it.
Well, the question that I need to ask is Melissa upset because they've used a white model to promote this product? And would she be happy with a Chinese model to do it? Or is she in fact saying that what is a traditional ancient beauty treatment that actually is considered, Wikipedia describes it as implausible and has no medical benefit, because it's not being done? I mean, you've got this machine that's like a massaging thing. What this actual technique is like the cupping and the spooning. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. I have it done when I have acupuncture and what have you on my back. But this is done with spoons, and it actually breaks up the skin. You get quite bruised by it, and then it's supposed to rush the blood into the muscles and help the healing process. But now you've got this machine, which is a massager, which people use. So what I'm saying is that they've taken an ancient art form and put it into this thing that doesn't do anything. So is Melissa upset that it's the machine taken from the culture, or is she upset because it's not an Asian woman that's promoting it?
I think that's a good question. And yes, Jason, would she have had a problem if it was an Asian lady using the machine? But I still come back to my point that, you know, television has been appropriated around the world by many different cultures, and that was made by John Logie Baird. You know, like, am I wrong here, Jason?
Look, I don't think you're wrong, and you're absolutely right. Like, we've taken so many things from so many cultures, and, you know, I think for me what is upsetting about this, and we all need to remember that if someone or a business or an organisation has made a mistake, let them correct that mistake, let them apologise, but let's not keep attacking, let's not destroy businesses. If someone has an opinion, at the moment, you know, our society and culture is so quick to cancel and go and seek and destroy these businesses. This cafe has immediately issued an apology for offending, at the time that it was one person, and then obviously there was a few others. But let's not be a culture or society that goes and destroys hardworking businesses, hardworking people that seemingly have made a mistake. And I also agree. I mean, I have had this.
In fairness, she didn't tweet the cafe. She blacked them out. In fairness to her.
Yes.
But I understand. But unfortunately, it is so quick with technology to be able to find out what the cafe is, who's put it out there, and as the media has now, they found out who the cafe was. So I think we've just got to be so, not so harsh to judge and to attack. And if someone's made a mistake, sure, explain why they've made a mistake. I mean, I don't think she's necessarily given her opinion, as you've pointed out. Would she have been happy if it was an Asian model, or did she not want it used at all in the ad? I think if she came out to explain herself, because I have had massages myself, as you've pointed out, it's an ancient technique, and I've gone down to my local massage parlor, and they've used this. So it's a difficult.
But also you've got to think about the ad. This has now become very popular in Western cultures. So of course, if you're going to put an ad for this, you are going to put it with a woman who you think best replicates your target market. So I think you'll find if you look for ads for this machine all over the world, you'll find that they have put a model that is country appropriate. So yes, if that's a technique, yes, absolutely. But I think you'll find that they're there to sell a product.
Fair enough. All right. Yep. Piper O'Neill, a former contestant on Seven's My Kitchen Rules, has been awarded over $22,000 a year in ongoing compensation after a claim for psychological injury. In August 2020, she launched the claim seeking $1,000 in weekly benefits, alleging that during the show her actions and words were distorted with editing and that she was the victim of bullying and harassment by other contestants and the show's producers. While she has not been awarded the full amount from March 26, 2019 onwards, she receives $425 per week or $22,100 per year. O'Neill's lawyer, Carmine Santoni, has said Piper is glad that the legal proceedings have been resolved with an award in her favour, but otherwise does not wish to make any further comment at this time. However, Seven are denying the reports, with a spokesperson saying, "We refuse any claims in this case. There has been no settlement or lump sum payment. As the matter is ongoing, we have no further judgment." I want to pick something up with that Seven statement there. They are right. No, they haven't paid out a lump sum payment. And what was the other thing they said? There's been no settlement. No, that's absolutely right. There's been a ruling here. I don't understand this quite bizarre statement from Seven, but anyway, this is the ruling, and we're going to talk about that ruling because, Jason, this is very interesting because production companies have always been very, very careful to make sure reality TV contestants aren't considered employees of the network and the production company. This ruling says they are. And so when there is psychological damage and they can't work and they've got the medical certificates to prove that, a network is liable. This changes the game.
It absolutely changes the game. I mean, I think, if you signed up for a reality TV show in the past, like I have been on, you know that you might be edited in the right or the wrong way, and really there was no recourse on the production company. This certainly changes the game, for those who have been affected. And, what to me is scary, does this now open up the door for a lot of other contestants that have been on reality shows that have felt that, they can't get work as a result of their edit or the way they've been portrayed? I mean, I think it's a little bit silly because in my view, if you sign up for a reality show, you're going in there knowing I'm either going to be portrayed in a good light light or a bad light, and that's just the luck of the draw. You wanted to get on reality TV, you wanted to sign up for the glitz and the glamour, but also you've got to understand that reality TV is not all about the glitz and the glam, and sometimes it can have a bit of a downside, like we've seen with a lot of contestants who sign up with reality TV shows. So I think now, if I was a production company, I would be scrambling to make sure that no one else can come out of the closet and sue me.
Well, that's the problem. They can, Susie. And what does this mean for reality TV? Even if they contract to say you are not an employee, the ombudsman, the workplace ombudsman, could overrule that.
Oh, exactly. I think it has opened the floodgates without a doubt. But there was another case back in 2019 in House Rules as well where there was a settlement. But it is hard to dispute sustained psychological injury. And I guess when this particular contestant, who happens to be US born, I think knows a little bit about litigation. And I mean, in all seriousness, if people want more on-air time on a show like this, then of course they create that sort of interest in the media. In this case, she was having a little dalliance with another one of the contestants. She had actually split up with her husband, apparently, but they sort of portrayed it in a light that she didn't think was the right way. And therefore the whole thing's wound up as it has now. But you're absolutely right. I think it's going to... This is not the second case of two cases. I think it's the second of what may well be many.
I think you're right. Let's move on, because a 17-year-old girl with Down syndrome has been denied residency in New Zealand as she's deemed to not be of acceptable standard health and a burden on the education system. She first arrived in the country 5 years ago on a visitor's visa, and her parents and sister have since been granted permanent residency, while she has remained with her grandparents in India. While the parents disputed the claims that she would be a burden on the country's special education services, as it isn't compulsory for children to attend school after the age of 16, the assessor found that she would be eligible for disability allowance and supported living payment if she were to become a resident. Jason, what do you think here? Is the New Zealand government within its rights to deny her a permanent visa?
I mean, how could they deny her a permanent visa when her mother and sister and father were all granted visas? I mean, this to me is absolutely outrageous, and, you know, shame on the New Zealand government for at the moment this girl was sent back to her home country. I mean, to me, it's awful that you're separating a child from...
Sorry, mate. I'm sorry. You're right. People are being separated and we don't like that. But here's the thing. You're going into another country. You have a disability, and you're saying you now have to be responsible for my health issues. Now, I have pity. Please don't. I'm not an arsehole who doesn't care about people with disabilities. I'm a big advocate.
Don't grant the family a visa if you know you're going to not give the final child their visa.
Everybody you're separated individually.
Correct. Each one was granted. If you turn around and say that, then they'll turn around and say, oh, well, now you're biased because we've got a disabled child. You're not going to let any of us here. They're all taken under merit, or whatever the terminology is. But look, we all feel sorry for this girl. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Right? But you would be amazed, Jason, at how many times people are knocked back for this very reason. It's not just New Zealand. Australia does it. The entire world does it. I tell you what makes me sick to the stomach about this is that those parents still stayed in New Zealand with the rest of the family and sent that child back to live with its grandparents, who are now quite ill, and the father would go back occasionally and check on the child and check on his parents. I'm sorry if you are that keen to have your child within the family, and believe me, I'm enduring guardian and power of attorney of my nephew Matthew, who is the love of my life.
I'm glad you've made that point, Susie, because I wasn't going to jump in and do that because I didn't want to tell your story. But, you know, there's people there saying I have no words here. Well, the simple fact is, Susie, we have people in our lives with disability, and we... the things you do to look after young Matthew is above and beyond. So you are an invested person here. But like you, I agree that countries have rules. They don't just let everybody in. And if you do not pass what they have determined the rules of that country, then it's fair enough. You cannot expect to go to another country and get disability pensions, be on the dole. You have to be able to prove that you can look after yourself. You cannot place a burden on a country just because you want to live there.
I know, but they shouldn't have they shouldn't have let the family in. They shouldn't have let the family establish themselves in a country, then last minute for their last child, their last daughter, not to be granted the visa. I know it's looked at individually, but I'm saying the system is flawed and it's wrong. You can't allow parents and families to move, in the hope of getting a better life, establishing themselves in that country so they can get a better life, then their daughter is not granted a visa and sent back home. I don't agree with it.
They knew off the bat that she wasn't going to get in. They knew in 2016. They still stayed there. They got granted they got granted residence in 2017 and permanent residence in 2019. That child has been with her grandparents since 2016. They could have all gone back to India and been a family there. So it's been their choice, and I think it's unfair to blame the New Zealand government.
Before we move on, and I don't think we've put this bit of social media feedback on the screen, but Beck Hocking, I've seen you pop up a few times, and I just want to address something because you've just said you're blaming someone for having a disability. Not at all. Absolutely not at all. And there is no problem with everyone wanting a better life. I am so thankful I'm an Australian and I'm in this country because we have a good life compared to many other countries around the world. In fact, compared to most countries. My point, and I think Susie's point here too, is that this is about the burden, and I say that in inverted commas, the burden you place on another country. When countries are all trying to manage budgets and create a good lifestyle, you can't expect to go into a country, automatically be eligible for disability benefits, which this lady is, and that has to be considered when you're being assessed to go into that country. No one, absolutely no one, is having a go at someone for having a disability. No. Disability is all around us. Can I say,
for someone who manages Matthew's NDIS funding, there is a finite amount of dollars to go around to all the people that are disabled who are already registered to get this sort of benefit. If we then allow people from other countries to come in, and also there's just not going to be enough services. If they're stretched to the limit as it is, forgetting the dollar value taken out of it, but just the fact that I know how long Matthew has to wait for a lot of his services, and this country is remarkable in what we provide. So, I know you want to grant that, but then why don't you grant the other 500 that have applied as well?
Yeah.
You can't.
I just think the laws then need to change. They do then need to look at holistically as a family, because you can't have a family of 5 coming, 4 being granted visas, and the 5th one saying, sorry, you got to get back on a plane. To me, it doesn't seem right.
Fair enough. We're moving on, but Beck, please don't apologise for getting political. We want to hear your opinions. We want to be challenged. This is why this show is all about feedback. This is why we've now worked out to be able to put feedback on during the topic so we can play off what you guys are saying. On the show, the 3 of us will argue all night, and at the end we'll say, wasn't that a great show? We had a lot of fun. We want to be able to have these discussions. We all want to grow, and something you say may change our mind. So please, speak up more, Beck. Love it. And everyone else, you're more than welcome. This is your show. This is a discussion between us 3, and the viewers at home. So thanks very much. All right. A soon-to-be bride who posted her list of wedding rules on Facebook to ask if she had missed anything did not get the advice she wanted. She was instead slammed as rude and accused of treating her guests as inmates. Her list of demands included: don't wear white. Please don't show up late after the ceremony has started or the middle of the ceremony. No cell phones during the ceremony. Pace yourself when drinking. Don't get in the way of the photographers. No bringing in or trying to smuggle any of your own drinks. No rushing anyone. No trying to change things about the decorations. No nitpicking. No big announcements or proposals. And no posting to social media before us. The bride defended her rules, saying they were mainly directed towards her soon-to-be mother-in-law. And came to her defence saying, sorry, have I read that wrong? They were directed towards her soon-to-be mother-in-law, and others came to her defence saying the rules were fair and necessary. Look, I get the backlash. I actually think these rules are okay, Jason.
No, I think it's a little over the top. Like, you're having a wedding, you're not inviting people to a prison or like a jail. You know, this is meant to be a beautiful occasion, family and friends, and you know, things happen that people can't follow, and you can't be so, I don't know, by the rule book. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm going to a class or a schoolroom. I want to feel like I'm going to a celebration and I'm going to enjoy it, and I can have a bit of my own flair. I mean, I think it's a little bit over the top, and people who are having these special occasions, you just need to relax. Like, it's okay if I mean, what's going to happen if someone has a bit too much to drink, or, you know, it's just going to make for a great story. Stop being such a Debbie Downer or like a headmaster. Like, no, they're trying to be like a headmaster. Like, I don't want to go to a wedding that makes me feel like I'm in school. I want to enjoy myself.
Me is this is a good list of rules that I should abide by. Susie, you shouldn't. If you're at a wedding, do not announce that you're having a baby. Do not announce the sex of the baby. Do not propose to someone. I think that's fair.
Meghan and
Harry's big day.
Meghan and Harry did at the cousin's wedding.
No,
I missed that.
Of course, these are all things that you shouldn't do. And these would be things, if people were taught the correct behaviour and etiquette, that you wouldn't even have to tell people that they had to do it. But unfortunately, that seems to be lacking in today's society. But also, I think where she's gone wrong is she's made them her wedding rules, instead of them being wedding etiquette and sugarcoating them a little bit and adding a please and a thank you. And I think they would have gone over very well. I don't think there's any unreasonable requests that are in there. And you can see that there's a lot of them that are pointed directly at her mother-in-law. And apparently she had arguments with a mother-in-law about getting her daughter's ears pierced. So apparently she must have already had a child before the wedding, and she's already having issues with the mother-in-law. And I think the husband doesn't sound like he's got enough courage to face his mother. So I guess to put these rules together and hope that the mother-in-law will take note that they're for everyone. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. No, they're not.
I love it. I love it.
Can I say, though, the mother-in-law must love a drink, because if the rules are about the mother-in-law, it's don't drink too much, don't smuggle in a drink.
Isn't the booze free at a wedding? I mean, now here's the big issue. If she's making people pay for the booze at her wedding, there's an issue.
There's an issue. That's a no.
A lot of reception places say to them, you know, if people bring in extra alcohol, we're going to charge you a corkage fee and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, maybe she's on a budget. She's got to be careful where the money's being spent, or maybe she's judging everyone else by her own standards.
Yeah, very good point. All right, coming up, Hamish Blake, he's standing by. He'll be joining us shortly. And we've got another interview before that. We've got interviews galore. And Jason is going to spill the tea on all the MAFS action. But in the meantime, it's time to get the very latest news. And with Angie away, what do we say? Let's go to Susie.
Thanks, Rob. Yes, let's take a look at what's making news on this day, Tuesday, the 27th of April 2021. Well, the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, has announced all flights from India to Australia will be temporarily halted as the South Asian country continues to deal with a record-breaking COVID outbreak that has plunged its medical system into chaos. He also said Australia would send a range of goods to India to help as it struggles with a critical shortage of medical supplies. Australian athletes heading to the Tokyo Olympics will be given access to coronavirus vaccines before the Games. Health Minister Greg Hunt and Sports Minister Richard Colbeck said the decision by National Cabinet applied to more than 2,000 athletes and support staff. Both the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines will be issued. Crown Casino has been hit with a $1 million fine for failing to vet foreign high rollers and scrutinise junket operators, some of whom have links to organised crime gangs. The fine is the maximum penalty available and reflects the seriousness of the breach. The Victorian Commission for Gaming and Liquor Regulation Commission found Crown failed to keep the necessary records relating to junkets and said the processes were necessary to keep the casino free from criminal influence. Porsche driver Richard Pussy, who filmed 4 dying police officers after a truck crashed into them, claims he's a victim on the eve of his sentencing. The defence comes as a Corrections Victoria report says Pussy is too high profile and unpopular to serve his sentence in the community. County Court Judge Trevor Wright said he was astounded and disturbed by the actions of Corrections Victoria, which has refused to accept him should he be sentenced tomorrow to a community corrections order. The judge added the report seemed to be motivated by not wanting to deal with this man because he's unpopular. And an urgent recall has been issued nationwide for a popular vegan protein bar. Excuse me. Chemist Warehouse has been forced to pull Bondi Protein Co.'s chocolate and salted caramel vegan protein bars from its shelves over concerns they contain an undeclared allergen. The Food Standards Authority, issuing the warning, says the bars may contain peanuts which could trigger an allergic reaction. And now to tomorrow's weather. It's going to be a wet one in Cairns and Brisbane, while there's a smoke haze warning for Sydney. In Canberra, it will be mostly sunny. The fog will be out in Melbourne before also becoming a mostly sunny day. Hobart can expect a partly cloudy day and mostly sunny in Adelaide. A partly cloudy day is also forecast for Perth. The sun will be out in Alice Springs, while Darwin can expect a shower or two.
Thank you, Susie.
And now back to you, Rob.
Thanks, Susie. Well, they were the lovable husbands who took out first place on The Amazing Race Australia in 2019. And now Tim and Rod have their own podcast where they share all the goss on reality TV. And they join me now. Tim and Rod, welcome to the Ange, Rob and Robbo Show.
Thanks for having us.
We're so excited to be here and chat with you. Thank you.
Oh, look, it's so good to have you guys here because you were fan favourites on The Amazing Race and now you're sharing your love for other reality TV shows as well. Where did this passion for reality TV come from?
I think literally from the get-go, we've been reality TV show super fans. Like, we love every show under the sun. We've just been obsessed with it. And to get on The Amazing Race, we were super fans of that show. So when we got on it, we couldn't believe it. And then when we won it, we were like, oh my God, is this actually happening? So post-race, we just love all things reality. We thought, what better thing to do than start a podcast about reality TV? So that's exactly what we've done.
Well, you've done it and you've done it well. Look, the making it to the end of The Amazing Race saw you travel to 45,000 kilometres in 8 countries. Do you have any favourite moments that didn't make it to air?
Oh, gosh. There was honestly like a lot of just moments throughout that race where you were absolutely losing it. I think because we were the winners, we might have got a pretty good edit, but we were like, there were times where we were literally just like ready to like just pack our bags and go home because it just is so hard. But there was a moment in Africa and the pit stop was an Elephant Cafe, and it was going to be a foot race between us and the footy boys, Tom and Tyler. And the producers were like, don't run, because there was a herd of elephants. So we didn't want to spook them and us get trampled by elephants.
Well, it's always a good thing not to be trampled by elephants. Hey, look, I do want to talk to you about your podcast because The Real House Husbands, you actually talk to other reality TV stars, and episode 1, you made a splash. You talked about Perez Hilton, who actually came on this show to say he refuted everything that was said, but tell me about who you had on and what was said.
Mate, Perez Hilton, first off, is one of the biggest characters ever. So we were like pinching ourselves we had him on the podcast. But episode one, we had Ryan Gallagher from MAFS, who is a legend. He's the nicest guy ever. We had him on, and he spilled all the tea on Perez, said they just did not get along, said everyone in the jungle just was scared of him, and he kicked off and was blowing up. And, well, anyways, Perez reached out to us and said, can I come on and defend myself and tell my side of the story? And we said, mate, 100%. So episode 2, we got Perez on. But there was two sides to every story. We still don't know who to believe. They're both very believable, so I don't know who is telling the truth. But we've had Perez, Ryan was on. We've got Erin this week, Erin Barnett, also from I'm a Celeb. We had Trinity the Tuck, the RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star winner. She was on. And we have, wait till you see some of the guests we have coming up in the next few weeks. It's going to blow your socks off.
Well, that sounds very impressive. I thought we were his only Australian media outlet, but to all of us. Look, I'm intrigued about this because one of the things about being on reality TV is trying to make a success of it afterwards. How do you stop yourself from going into obscurity and trying to... cash in's the wrong word, but make the most of your success from being on a reality TV show?
Well, do you know what? We pride ourselves on just being real, genuine blokes. We're not going to call paparazzi on ourselves. We're not going to do these sort of things that typical reality sort of stars do. And for us, this is something that we won the race and COVID hit almost immediately after. So our kind of big break and whatnot was meant to be traveling around the world. We had a whole lot of paid gigs come up for us, which got cancelled because of COVID. So for us, this has been like a long time coming. We put a lot of hard time and effort into this, and it's just something we're passionate about. And our podcast isn't just about the reality trash that you can just watch on normal TV. We look at the actual reality side of it, that if a camera followed us around in our day-to-day life, it's probably actually more juicy and more entertaining than what you'd see on the actual TV.
Then why aren't you doing that?
If someone wants to follow us around.
But mate, we just love it. We have fun doing it, and it's literally got us written all over it. We just have so much fun getting in the studio, recording, getting on Instagram and pumping out content. People seem to enjoy it, and if we can make people laugh and smile, that is all totally worth it. So hopefully people are enjoying what we're putting out there.
Well, I think you two are bloody legends, and you can listen to the Real House Husbands podcast on Acast or any of your podcast feeds. Tim and Rod, this is a podcast we all have to listen to.
Yes.
I am just thrilled for your success, and thank you for being on the Ange, Rob and Robbo show.
Thank you for having us. And like I said, wait till you hear our next podcast. It's with Ellie Miles, The Bachelorette, 2019. 2020. It's a drunken pod. We did jelly shots. It is out of control. It is hilarious. Do not miss that.
Oh, I am going to be listening into that one. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Pretty good, guys. It's time for a hit of entertainment, and with Jason Roses. And Jason, forget Bryce and Melissa and Jake and Beck. Let's be honest, you were the big star of MAFS that everyone wanted more of. Right, it is time to spill the tea. Actually, do we have a graphic of Jason? This is what how they put the headline up. And best supporting role for this season of MAFS goes to Jason Roses. So, spill the tea, Jason.
The straw that gets the award?
I know. It was basically, I created all this pandemonium, and it was me drinking from a straw, and that's all I was doing. And then next minute I'm plastered everywhere, and people are wondering what I know, how do I know? I mean, it was a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of people have asked me how I became friends with Bryce, and, just putting it out there for public record. We did do our weekend breakfast together. He then basically stopped doing it, but at the time we were friends. I was invited to his wedding, and then I was invited to the final date in Canberra. So I was a part of his circle for a very short amount of time, but it is safe to say we're not friends anymore. I don't follow him on Instagram, he doesn't follow me, and I'm quite happy with that.
Wowzers.
And are you in contact with the other woman that he had on the outside?
Look, so what we're going to do, I think we're playing, this is what happened when I first call up with Bryce and Melissa in Canberra. Take a look.
There's a room here for two more people.
Hello.
Hi, we're hugging. Okay.
Hi, Melissa.
Oh my gosh.
Nice to meet you.
Jealous some of the ups, but most of the downs. The uppies, we're in a really good place. We've faced some pretty big things on our experiment, not gonna lie. Can we ask what they are? Like, tell us it all.
Oh, goodness, where do I start? There was a rumour about Bryce that he has a girlfriend outside of the experiment, which was started by another one of the wives. I think that what I'm just looking for is there any truth to this girlfriend rumour?
you tumbleweeds to come in.
Oh my gosh, I know. And so that was filmed in Canberra. I was asked my thoughts, and this is what I said about it all.
Is it true?
No. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know. All I know is that he was seeing a girl on the outside, and obviously I'm sure that it ended when he went onto the show, but I haven't spoken with him. So I'm going to believe what he's saying and that, he broke it up with her. So.
Me think our process too much.
Look, you know what? I've never said this publicly. I was put in a very uncomfortable position. I didn't want to be there. If I had my time again, I would absolutely take it back because there was a lot happening. There was a lot going on. And, you're going to watch now the conversation that was recorded when we thought our mics were off. And it also goes to show that the other two girls that he still calls friends, he came out on a radio show the other day and said, I'm still really good friends with them. This is what the girl that he's meant to be friends with said off air.
Do you think he's lied to me?
Do you think he's lied?
Yeah, no doubt.
The gift thing is true.
Huh?
The gift thing is true.
Oh.
And so for those who obviously... I was going to say, for those who didn't follow the storyline or were following the storyline, the entire season it was about Bryce apparently buying a gift for a girl on the outside. He kept denying it, yet his friend at the final date clearly says the gift thing is true. That clip, that was of course shown at the final reunion, and this is what Bryce had to say.
Bryce, how do you explain what we just saw? Your friends talking about when they did not think the cameras were rolling.
Well, they did know they were rolling. So things were pushed, so.
What do you mean by that? That was an off-guard moment. That was not part of what was happening in the situation. So clearly they thought they were not in shot and they were having a very low-voice conversation between the three of them.
Yeah. Well,
what do you mean things were pushed?
Well, they were told to push that agenda.
I just want to be clear here.
Yeah.
So you're claiming that your friends here were told to lie about this situation and they agreed to lie about you.
They've basically been told about what was going on and to
pushing agenda and, yeah.
So you say they were acting?
Is that what you want to call it? Yeah.
Oh,
So, Jason, you were acting.
Yeah.
It's time to put this to bed. Were you acting? Were you put up by the producers to say that he had a girlfriend?
We absolutely weren't acting. They did tell us about the storyline that was playing out, but the conversation that was had with the three of us was absolutely an off-the-mic conversation. We didn't think that the cameras were still rolling. We didn't think that we were being recorded. So what you saw was a very raw conversation. That's why we were whispering. But we're not actors. I've seen people online saying, oh my God, he's an actor. He's been at another MAFS wedding. They've paid him $100. I'm not an actor. We weren't paid anything. We genuinely were there at the time to support our, someone, Bryce, but we weren't acting. And the conversation that me and the girls were having was a genuine conversation. And you could clearly tell, and I'm speaking on my record, they were not comfortable being there. I was not comfortable being there. It was an uncomfortable position to be.
Why weren't you comfortable?
I just wasn't comfortable being there.
But there must be a reason. You're his work colleague, being part of a reality TV show. That's a great thing. It's a high-profile thing. It just feels weird to me that you didn't want to be there.
Yeah, I just wasn't the line of questioning. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I was. Sorry.
I was going to say, does that mean you're going to sue them?
No. I'm not suing anyone. I mean, look, I had a lot of fun. They're now doing their own thing. I've heard that they've announced they're doing a podcast and, good luck to them. But yeah, I just...
Mate, we haven't had a chance to chat about this before we came on air, and I don't want to throw you under a bus, but I want to ask you some questions. You go as far as you want, because this was the storyline of MAFS. Now, if we go by what was shown on MAFS, he told Beck that he had a girlfriend on the outside. Now,
which in itself is really strange. Why would you tell another couple, the wife of another couple this? Was he really trying to impress her?
And I think to me, watching it unfold on television, he's had this conversation. He's told her about a gift, that he has been denying the whole season. Then yet right at the end, his friend has come out and said the gift thing was true, which in fact affirms the conversation he's had at the start. So it basically says Beck wasn't lying. This was the conversation. She wouldn't have pulled out this random gift thing out of thin air.
So, Jason, let me be the interrogator here for a moment. All right. So
There's only so much I'm going to say.
He's told. Sorry.
There's only so much I'm going to say, but
I know. I'm trying to be careful too, because I'm trying. It's a very difficult position for all of us. But at the end of the day, allegations have been made that you're lying. Okay, so this went to air on a national television show that you are a liar, that you were acting, and you were doing the producer's bidding by trying to further this girlfriend rumour. Can you categorically say that is not true?
I'm not an actor. I wasn't being told to act. Sure, we were told, they had indicated that this girlfriend rumour had appeared during the filming, and they basically wanted us to quash the rumours, and the reality is
Who wanted you to quash the rumour? Well, I'm assuming that's Bryce. I'm assuming Bryce wanted you to quash the rumour. Doesn't mean that it was true. He wanted your help to kill the rumour off. What it says to me is that scene...
Sorry, did he ask you to actually crush that rumour?
He had asked me in a text message to come back with that Vox Pro and just to paint them in a better light.
Okay.
Which you struggled to do.
Rob.
Yeah.
Why did the relationship with Bryce end, mate?
I think, I think he just thought that to be honest, I think he thought that I was out there for the fame, or was trying to get a bit of extra television time, and he saw different articles coming out, and then next minute I've seen he's blocked me on Snapchat, he's unfriended me on Instagram. Really, I wasn't doing anything. I had nothing to hide. I had nothing to hide.
After he saw the tape at the reunion?
I think this was after he saw the tape of the reunion, and then obviously things were starting, he saw some Daily Mail articles, he saw the video I did on the And Rob and Robbo show that he had also questioned and said, what's this about? And really I said nothing. So I think after all of that, he kind of said, I'm done here.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because here's the problem for Bryce, he's someone who has maintained this was all a lie, and yet obviously there's been all of this around him happening, and I'm actually really glad that he and Melissa have made it work. But if he had a girlfriend, he should have just been honest about it. He probably went in the plan to keep the girlfriend, get a bit of fame from the television show, and then things change. He's actually fallen in love. The problem is that so many moments have come to light, like when you don't know you're being recorded and you're speaking what is essentially your truth.
Yeah, so exactly. And, I've seen online lots of messages and screen snapshots and all this sort of thing pops up. So, of course, you question whether, what's true and what's not true. And, but yeah, him and Melissa are happily together. And, yeah,
Well, Jason, I think there's a lot in what you haven't said. The girl was named over and over in MAFS, but her name was bleeped out. If she existed, how do you think she'd be taking all this?
If she existed, I'd imagine she would be very, very upset. I'd imagine she'd be very, very upset.
Yeah, and you can't blame her for that.
Correct.
All right, Jason, look, we've grilled you enough. You can wipe your brow now. You promised to spill the tea. and look, we do need to say, Jason, you are a very loyal person. You are a great person. And I love the fact that you're part of this show. MAFS aside, we love you for the entertainment reporting you do. The MAFS was a little cherry on the top of a great ice cream cake. That's not the expression, is it? But Jason, we do love you, and mate, thank you very, very much for your honesty and for being you.
Thank you. I love being on this show. I love you guys.
Well, you're here to stay.
Yes.
Well, he is one half of the comedy duo that have had us laughing for years, whether on the radio or on our TV screens or on their podcast. And he is also the host of the ratings winner Lego Masters. Hamish, ahoy, and welcome to the And Rob and Robbo show.
Thank you so much for having me. How you going?
Good, except you're frozen.
I did freeze, didn't I? What a shame.
Bloody hell.
I don't know how that's happened. We're allegedly on very fast Wi-Fi here.
It's all right. We got you. Third time's a charm, mate. One for you, one for me.
Do you want to do the intro? Or do you want to
Okay, great. Okay.
I'll do the intro.
Should we do the intro again? Do we need to wait for it to catch back up? Are we back? We're back.
We're back. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so sorry, mate. Well, he is one half of the comedy duo that have had us laughing for years, whether on the radio, on our TV screens, or on their podcast. And he's also the host of the ratings winner, the #1 entertainment show, Lego Masters. Hamish, ahoy, and welcome to the And Rob and Robbo show.
Ahoy, how are you guys? Lovely to be here.
Look, it's so great to have you here. And there's been some great news this week, with Nine confirming they've signed you on for another 2 years of Lego Masters.
They have. I mean, yes. I suppose it's one of those things where I'm like, well, I'm happy to sign for 2 because I mean, if it keeps going well, why wouldn't I do it? I suppose was my thinking. I mean, if we can, my only worry is like finding enough people that are this good at Lego, but the producers are confident that we could cast another 2 seasons. I'm like, well, if we think we can get the Lego talent, why wouldn't I do the show? It's so much fun.
I don't think that's going to be an issue, but it's quite extraordinary because networks don't usually make a 2-year commitment.
Let it snow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they can retract it. I mean, there's not much you could do if they retract it. So I suppose at the end of the day, it's a lovely vote of confidence. But the network has always been, I mean, you know, like rewinding 3 years, it was Michael Healy who, you know, is the head of their TV at 9. He was the first person to tell me about the show and to go, look, do you like Lego? Do you would you be interested in doing a show about Lego? And it was, to be honest, like it was led by Mike's enthusiasm and belief for the show. And it's easy now that we know what the show is and we've seen it, we get it. And a lot of that happened in season 1 when we sort of figure out what the show is, what it isn't. But I really clearly remember back early days, Mike going, we believe in this show. And him being on set like before it aired, because, you know, we film it over summer and then it kind of airs now, April-ish. So that first year we're filming it over summer. And we were having a great time filming it, but you never know in TV. Like, it could just as easily, people could be going, oh, of course, Lego, it's so popular, who, you know, that's an easy one to think that they'll be successful. But by the same token, it could have just aired in April and not worked. Like, you know, that happens a lot on TV too, and then everyone could have been going, what were you guys thinking? Why would you do a show about Lego? And so you have this feel, especially season 1, you have this feeling you're so aware that you're just in your own little bubble. Like, we make it at the showgrounds in Melbourne next to the MasterChef kitchen. There's like 2 identical sheds. One is MasterChef, one's Lego. And, you know, you're just aware that for many months you are in a shed being an idiot with and seeing incredible Lego builds, which is fun for you, but it's always nice to see that it translates to the rest of the world. Well, the funny thing about that is you have taken on the behemoth known as MasterChef and you've won. You know, Lego Masters is the #1 entertainment show in the country. You must be very proud of that, but you talk about that first season. It was quite a thing for them to get you to do it because you're almost the anti-host. I am. I mean, I quite happily feel like I am a bit of an anti-host, and from the get-go, that was our idea to tread that line of going, you know, because obviously, you know, I had not planned to be the host of a reality show. Like, I wasn't sort of going, okay, this is my 10-year goal. But I am a massive fan of reality TV. Like, I like watching reality shows, and I understand why they work in the world as a fan and as a consumer of reality. But at the same time, I think now, you know, 25 years since Survivor was invented, like, we all understand the tropes of reality. Yes. And we get it. My belief was, like, we can both love it and also understand the tricks that are being played. So I was like, we love the competition of Lego. We love we genuinely love the creativity and the passion and the actual sport of the show, which is, you know, can you have an idea? Can you bring it to life under pressure and allowing our contestants to see their creativity, to see their skill? That, there's no reason to muck around with that and to take the piss out of that. But it's in this reality show shell that's using all the tricks that we all have seen for 2 decades on reality shows, and we can laugh at that, and we can be aware that it's a TV show, and that we know there's going to be sound effects for drama, and we know that most likely things are going to be left on the cliffhanger when we go to ads, and we know that there's like heavy editing because obviously the challenges are 12 hours and the episode's 50 minutes. So our philosophy was always like, we can absolutely take the piss out of the reality TV and not take that seriously, but at the same time we take the competition seriously. Indeed. And what I love about your whole career is that piss take, but also taking what you do seriously. You know, I've heard interviews with high profile people like Christian O'Connor on Game Changers on that podcast, where people around the world talk about what you and Andy achieved on your radio show and how it became a benchmark around the world. Is that quite bizarre to have people talking about you
that way, especially when you'd had the original television show on Channel 7 and how can we put this? It bombed. I was a fan.
It bombed. Do you know what? Not only did it bomb, it still almost wouldn't be a success by today's numbers. And like, there's a lot of shows that I think Hamish and Andy aired in 2004 or 2005.
I would think that's
maybe.
About right.
Is that about right? Back then, if you did 900,000, they were like, we've got to fix this. Like, $1 million was the minimum. $1 million was like the cost of entry. And like MasterChef back then, remember, like that was like season 2 or season 3 of MasterChef that was doing like 2.5, 2.7. Everyone's like, that's pretty good. And so, like, if you did under $1 million, it was like, oh, 6 figures. What happened? So for that initial Hamish and Andy show, I remember we were doing about like 600,000, which was like test pattern at the time. That's passable. So it's taken like 16 years later. It's like the free-to-air overnight figure has shrunk. Now I don't think you would get axed for 600,000, but it still wouldn't be terrific. But there are shows that probably got axed that year that networks would kill to have those ratings nowadays.
Absolutely.
So,
but
sorry, to go back to your question, the interesting thing, I think, once we sort of got into the radio world and doing our travel shows was, I guess it was just us following our hearts a little bit, or we really just set out to do the stuff that we loved. Like, I think we were lucky because we were in our 20s, and that's a good time to go 200% all in I think in any industry, whatever you're in, like, that's the time to pedal your guts out because you don't have kids, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have like any outside stresses. And so you're kind of just free, I think, to go as hard as you possibly can. And we really lived the radio show, not through any plan, just because it instinctively felt like a fun thing to do. And so I think in retrospect, when people are kind of trying to, like, it just happened to work. So I think then people try and figure out the reason why. And there was a bit of people going, all right, these are the things you have to do to have a successful radio show, which I don't necessarily agree with. It worked for us because it was our favourite thing to do. Like, going on big trips and being super involved in stuff just was our favourite way to do things. Like, I think Andy and I both love taking silly things very, very seriously, and that probably that probably correlates to Lego too, where that just seems to be our favourite. That's just our favourite kind of having fun. So we were happy to just go all in that period.
Well, mate, on a serious issue, we have a producer on this show who always tells me about the fact when she was going through a really, really tough time in her life, your podcast got her through that. And I think sometimes when we're in the media, we forget the impact we have on people and how we affect their lives. And she really does credit you and Andy for getting her through that period of her life, which was really, really tough. When you hear things like that, and I'm sure you hear these kind of stories all the time, how do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, it's really touching, and to Anna and I, without wanting to I mean this quite earnestly. Like, to us, that is the highest compliment because and I think this goes for anyone that's making anything in life, and whether it's music or comedy or whatever you're making. That's really what you do it for. You're doing it to have a connection, not with everybody. You don't need everyone to get what you're doing. In fact, for anything, like, the vast majority of people won't connect with what you're doing. But to be able to connect with people, to be able to have a difference, to make a small difference in their day or their lives, for us, that's the whole point of it. Like, we are having a great time, and if we can include people in having that great time, without wanting to speak on Ando's behalf, but it is the most satisfying reward or feeling, because if you can put a little bit of kindness or a little bit of compassion or a smile on someone's face into the world, that's awesome. And I really am grateful when people tell us stuff like that. We do get feedback like that from time to time, and it's a great little reminder, because it's like, especially for radio and for what you guys do, we exist in a bit of a feedbackless world. I mean, doing a live show is a bit more immediate, that feedback. But I think for anyone that creates something to a distant audience, I think it's really important to always remember, you just don't hear a lot of the feedback, but it doesn't make it any less valid and any less real. So little moments like that, that's really beautiful. It's quite touching because it's a great little reminder that there are real people out there who may never get in contact with you. You know, I think if you look at comment sections or emails or whatever to the show or Facebook comments, it's like, it's lovely that people do make the effort to communicate that way, but it's such a tiny percentage of the population, and it really only gives you a snapshot of what people who could be bothered writing think, rather than what the general public or your general audience thinks. So I always think to myself, I always have that. I always run the test where I try and think about something that I love, right? Like a podcast that I love or a TV show that I idolize, and I go, right, Steve Carell, do we think he's a genius in The Office? Absolutely. Did he make me laugh for like a decade of my life doing that character? Yes. Have I ever told him about that? No. I've never written him an email. I've never sent a letter to NBC to thank them for putting on The Office, but I feel like it was a huge part of my life. And so you've got to remember there's people out there that you've loved and never told them that you love. And I think it's that, you've got to remember when you're making something, you're kind of doing it for the people that you'll never hear from. So when you do hear from them, in the case of your producer, it's extremely touching.
Well, Abby will be very pleased to hear about that. She wanted to be able to tell you and then said, I couldn't possibly tell him, so can you please tell him for me? So there you go.
So lovely, Abby. And I think people think... I think you might have even said it yourself, like it's prefaced with, I bet you guys get this all the time. We don't really. I mean, we do get it, but it doesn't take away any of the specialness, to be honest. This is not, when Andy and I hear that stuff, it really gets us right in the heart, because it's not us just going, all right, thank you, chuck it on the old compliments pile. It's really sweet, and we're always extremely grateful that people would share that with us, because it makes our day. So thank you, Abby.
And look, we all know the haters are the ones usually very, very vocal. So it's an important lesson for us. If you like something, say something. So, Hamish, I know you're a big fan of the Rob and Robbo show, so I look forward to the shout-out on the next podcast.
I'll be there. I'll be in the Facebook comments, and I will. I'll even not do it from one of my burner accounts. I'll do it from the real.
Hey, look, Australia's #1 entertainment show, Lego Masters, continues on Sunday at 7 p.m, then on Monday and Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on 9, of course. Hamish, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks so much, mate. Keep it up. Appreciate it.
Oh, he's a good guy, isn't he, Susie?
He really is, as well as being funny.
Yes, absolutely. A key component. Hey, Susie and Jason, it has been so lovely having you tonight. Susie, I love getting into the ring with you, but we will be back tomorrow night for another big edition of the Rob and Robbo Show. Susie Ellerman, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, always a pleasure. And Jason, we'll see you tomorrow as we stream live around the world on the Rob and Robbo Show. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.